Happy New Year, everybody. It's your girl, Barbie J, and we are back with the Equalizer Season 2, Episode 8, Separated. And you know what I'm going to say because it was another good episode. It kept me detailed. People were calling me while it was on. I'm like, could y'all stop calling me? I'm not at that part yet. Because I'm back, holding back, taking notes, and they just like watching and watching and watching. But anyway, before we get into this recap, I wanted to ask you to subscribe to my channel. That's right. Reach out and subscribe to Barbie J's channel. Hit the little subscribe button. And if you want to be notified every time I upload a new video, then you also hit that notification bell and it'll let you know what is going on. I know we've been waiting a long time for the Equalizer to come, and it is back with a vengeance. And like I said, yet another wonderful episode. But it didn't have Delilah in it. It's funny. And I think Aunt Vi had a small little part. I think she was in there for maybe 2 minutes. But anyway, let's get started. So, last episode, Harry had been arrested for espionage, basically. They broke into his little cave down there, and he got caught tapping into the classified information on that CIA database for Bishop. And now here it is. Bishop is having a hard time trying to get him out, as well as Robin. So this episode has spent a lot of time, not a lot of time on it, but some time on trying to find a way to get Harry out without Harry selling his soul, as he put it. So it's supposed to be 2020, and a woman named Alma and her son Pedro are they're seeking asylum from, where was it, Mexico, somewhere they were coming from. And they had crossed the border, and some ICE agents or somebody had found them or caught up with them and told them that they were crossing illegally. She said, but we're seeking asylum. I got proof that I was threatened and they were going to kill me or something like that. And they basically snatched the kid from her and took her. And I think they sent her back to wherever, and they kept the kid, putting him in, I'm going to say foster care, not foster care, but he was in the system somehow, going from one place to another, and they were not keeping good notes or records of these kids. These kids were all getting separated from their parents. It was such a mess. It was totally a mess. And it's amazing, what Robin had to go through, what Robin and Mel had to go through to try to find this boy. But in the meantime, Harry is still in prison. And Mel got out. She got out of prison. I guess Robin pulled some strings or whatever. And so she's released, and he's glad that she's out. And he tells her, Harry tells her to make sure to keep going no matter what. He said because she would go crazy. Continue to help others, and she's right. If you're sitting around, he said, if I'm sitting around, I'm gonna go crazy. And he was absolutely right about that. So just as a reminder, Harry, when he got caught, got caught because he was helping Bishop. Remember, Bishop was trying to get his son, and Robin asked him to help, and Mel didn't want him to help because she didn't like Bishop. And for him to go to prison, her husband to go to prison because of him, really didn't help his case at all. So, what else happened? Harry found out, or Mel told him that all of his equipment was confiscated. They got rid of his little bat cave stuff or whatever. In the meantime, Robin, she goes and she meets up with the woman. This woman, Alma, who says it's been a year. It's now 2021. It's been a year since she's seen her son. And she only talked to him one time, and I think it was about 10 minutes or something. She's upset that he went through his birthday, his 7th birthday, alone. But he promised her that he would come. She promised her son that she would come and find him no matter what. And she kept her promise. So when Robin talked to the lady after meeting with her, she finds out a little bit of information. So she goes to visit the last known place where her son was supposed to be, in Queens. And she pretended to be a social worker. And she said, they were like, well, we can't just be giving kids information now. She said, well, then you could call a police officer who hired me or something, like got me doing this and something like that. She said, who? So she gave him Detective Dante's information. She gave Detective Dante's information. And when they called him saying they wanted to verify this woman. She started talking loud so he could hear her over the phone in the background. And he just smirked and said, oh, yeah, Pedro Castillo. Uh-huh. He pretended. He said, okay, he said, is there anything else you need? They were like, no, we just need to verify her. But it was so funny, So later on, he goes, well, since we working together, because you don't added my name to the mix, he said, what's going on? And he ended up meeting with her to find out what the details and particulars were of this case. So they show Robin, they show her paperwork with a 6-year-old signature on it in English, giving up his rights to something. First of all, he's a Spanish kid. He don't know nothing, and you can't have a minor sign any kind of legal document. They said maybe they would have tried to find him, his parents and his mother, and get him back to them had y'all not done this, So she was pissed, and I think they had an address of a place where he probably was. And so she and Detective Dante go to that place. He tags along, and it's abandoned, and you could tell that it was a fire there at some point, but no kids were there. So they found out who the owner of the house was, and Detective Dante said, okay. He said, but you don't usually need my help to do something like this. She said, I know. My computers are down. So basically, they really down because, they confiscated all of Harry's stuff. So in the meantime, Mel is sitting watching a video that Harry left for her in case anything ever happened to him. I think that meant death or anything other things. And he gave her information on how to run and do the things that he does and what kind of drives and equipment and whatever. I don't know. He gave her all this intel. So that was helpful because she was able to help Robin with looking up some things. And she was like, oh, Robin was glad that she knew. She said, well, Harry left very detailed information on how to do everything. So I said that, well, that's a good man right there. So Robin wanted to go by herself too. She found out who this guy was, who the owner of the house was, and he's supposed to have a gym too. And so they said that he might be trafficking or something like that, kids, human trafficking or a drug trafficking. I don't know what it was she was thinking. But she went to the gym and she told Detective Dante she wanted to go along with this one because she might have to get like physical or whatever. And she did, and come to find out, the gym owner, he was a Mexican immigrant himself, and he was trying to help them. So he gave his house over to the charity to house the immigrant children. But the nosy neighbors reported them, talking about a bunch of illegals in their hood, in their neighborhood, and they tried to burn it down. Can you believe that? What the heck is wrong with people trying to burn somebody's house down because there's illegal immigrants in it, as they put it? So he said, he said to Robin, I hope you, find the kid. He remembered him too. He saw it. So, I mean, wow. You're trying to help these kids, and these people are just mean, very mean. So in the meantime, while Robin is going to the next place, trying to find out some information. I think the next place was in Brooklyn. They were supposed to ship some of these kids to Brooklyn. And she gave the information to the mother and said she's trying to find out more information. But the mother got excited and said, oh, if he's there, I got to go. She said, no, sit tight. Let me find out more information and I'll get back to you. But of course, she didn't sit tight, right? We know she didn't sit tight because people don't listen. That's a mother. She want a child, but you can't hire somebody and then get in the way. Then we have Bishop still trying to, help Harry. He goes to some top officials, I don't know, military officials. I don't know who these people were, trying to help Harry. And he said, can't you bring him into the fold and do this? And he said, you're telling us what we already tried to do. And they played a video of Harry turning them down, saying that he's not going to go from one cell to another cell, being a slave to them, basically. He was going on and ranting. And so this top official is saying, how can we help him when he doesn't even want to help himself? We already tried that. So that was that. But then, like I said, let's get back to the woman in Brooklyn. She goes to Brooklyn to the shelter where Robin tells her that he might be. And she's there already asking questions and bothering the lady and trying to find out stuff. And Robin walks in there like, yo, chill, let me handle this. She's supposed to be her advocate, so let her handle it. Where's my son? Then they run into this other guy, this white guy, who tries to act like he's very helpful and wants to help them and everything. And he's really a bad guy. He overheard and was listening, and he asked for her phone number and said he'll look into it and get back to her. And then when they left together, when Robin and the lady Alma leave, this guy calls somebody else and say, yo, they're asking about the kids, and this could be dangerous. We don't know what's going, this could be a problem. It's so sad what these children have to go through. It is so sad, especially those who was torn from their parents at the border. So Robin and them thought that the boy was deported. They thought that was one of the options, but because of the skills that Harry taught Mel was able to tell her that Pedro was not on the deportation list. But everybody had an excuse why their files were jacked up, why this was wrong and that was wrong, and how they lost the kids. And the woman was like, this place, America is not what they say it is. It is terrible. She was upset. And I was like, wow. And it was embarrassing, to be honest. Meanwhile, Bishop shows up to let Mel know he tried everything he can. And he told him what he had found out and learned, that Harry turned him down and blah, blah, blah. And she said, don't you dare say nothing negative about him. That's what I love about him, that he won't sell his soul to this and that. She went on, and that was that. But he said, you hate me, don't you? She was like, I sure do. Or you don't like me very much. And basically she didn't. She doesn't. I'm sorry. So that bad guy, he calls up. He uses that number that Pedro's mother gave. What's her name? Alma gave. And he asks her to meet him at nighttime somewhere and not to tell her friend. And she's like, okay, I swear I won't. So, and when she goes to meet him at night, she's like, why you want to meet here? And the first thing he do is pull out a gun on her. And she's like, oh my God. He's like, go to this tree, walk over to that car. And when she started walking, Mel came out of nowhere, kicked his butt, knocked him down, and said, now you're going to tell us where that boy is. And you're going to tell us now. And she did a warning shot to the ground. And then she was like, tell me. He gave the address. And then he got up to start walking, and somebody shot him. So that probably was his partner, shot him from a car and drove off. And that's when Robin and Detective Dante showed up, and they told him what went down and stuff. And they went to the address. Detective Dante and Robin went to the address with Alma, the mother, while Mel stayed behind with that guy's body. So now when they get to the address, there's a family there, and they just adopted Pedro for $10,000. They paid for him. And Robin is like, I think you guys were part of an illegal adoption agency or adoption ring. And they was like, no. The mother was very upset. This is our son. You can't take him. She said, no, that's my son. You can't adopt my son. That's my son. So they're arguing back and forth. And finally, the father goes up to get the boy because the woman wasn't going to allow it. He said, who are we to keep this boy from his mother if that's his mother? And he was like, you wouldn't want that to happen to you. So the boy came downstairs, and it was not Pedro Castillo. It was Emmanuel Castillo, whose name is Manny. And they were going to find Pedro a house, a place to live. But they switched names because Pedro said, my mommy is coming to get me. So you can be adopted. I know my mommy's coming back to get me. I tell you, the love of a son and a mother. I tell you, the love of a mother and her child. He was like, I know my mama coming back to get me. And his mother said she was going to keep her word. And she sure enough did. But it wasn't him. And then they asked the little boy who walked him out of the place. Because how did he get out of the place? And that clicked in her head after talking to Aunt Vi. Aunt Vi was looking for a set of keys to a storage bin or something like that. And Robin said she could pick the lock and let her in and go about her business. But Aunt Vi said it couldn't have just walked out like that or walked away. And she said, oh my God. So she asked Manny to describe the man who walked him out to his family. And he described the man, and it was somebody she had already seen earlier that day or the day before or something like that. So that was helpful. So they set up a little sting and flattened all this guy's tires. They flattened all his tires. And then Mel drove her by like she was what is it? What do those people call that come and pick up your car? A tow truck driver. She pulls up as a tow truck driver, asks him, does he need any help? And she comes out with the electric, whatever, jack, and he couldn't find his jack. And what she did was plugged the jack into the cigarette lighter, and she plugged something else in to read his hard drive, the hard drive in his car, which told everywhere he went, all the stops he made. Somehow it was able to tell. So they noticed there was a stop by a sweatshop somewhere. I don't know if that was in Brooklyn. It's supposed to be a material, fabric store, some type of fabric store, I think, or whatever. So come to find out, they were calling it a sweatshop. And they said, when you think of a sweatshop, you sure don't think about it at the United States. You think of it in some foreign country. Am I right about that, y'all? But that's what it was. So reading his hard drive was very helpful. And that was a plus. Then Mel gets a call that they're shipping Harry off to Leavenworth. And it seems like Leavenworth must be like a terrible prison or something like that. It must be somewhere terrible that you don't want him, your loved one to be in or go to. So Robin calls Bishop to help. Is there anything you could do about this? Tell me you got something. And Bishop, somehow he's they told Mel, the attorney told Mel she better hurry up and get there to see him before they ship him off in the morning. So Mel goes to see him and she's crying and everything. She's like pouring it out. And for some reason, Bishop is around and he could see her and he feels bad because the man is in prison because of him, because he wanted to get his son out. This was all about him, so what ended up happening? Bishop ended up making a phone call. And what this phone call was his little golden ticket, his get out of jail free card. I think he called the president or something and made the call. And she said, "You did that for Harry?" He said, "No, I did it for you." But he said there's stipulations. The stipulation is Harry can't even touch a computer once he gets out. He can't touch a computer for anything. I said, that is the dumbest thing to say or whatever, because we're in a computer type of world now, and everybody just about, don't they force you to do everything online? Go online. Do it online. Check online. No more paper documents. Get it online. Online. But when your Wi-Fi is down, you can't do jack because you did everything online, When electricity is off and the Wi-Fi is down and it's problems and it's raining out and storming, that Wi-Fi ain't going to help you none. But anyway, they said even if he went to check his bank account, he would go to Leavenworth. So I don't know how that's going to work. Robin was like, I don't know how that's going to work, but I don't see it happening. So it ended with Robin showing up at the fabric store, the fabric warehouse or whatever it is, shop, warehouse, and it looks empty. And they said that place had been cited many times for, I forgot what it was, some kind of illegal something, with something with illegal with, what is it? I'm trying to remember what it was called. I guess workers having people underage working there, whatever it is. But y'all know what I'm trying to say. So when she shows up, next thing you know, it's like I said, it's empty. Something's wrong. You see a shoe on the floor or something happened. They had to move real quick. And the 3 men come out, the ICE agent and 2 other guys with guns at her. And of course, she gets into a fight. And while she fights, she sees a little boy on the floor and she's telling him to stay right there. And there's shooting going on and they're fighting. She's fighting the 3 men. And once she finished, she finished and she won, right? The little boy takes her in the back room. And he shows her where all of these other immigrants are, females and males, alike, young and older. And there's Pedro. She sees Pedro and she's like, oh my God. So who shows up? Detective Dante shows up and he sees her with Pedro and he smiles and she tells Pedro in Spanish. Queen Latifah got her Spanish going. Robin got her Spanish going. She takes him to see his mama. They get reunited and they end up with giving them a special visa to stay in the U.S. for 3 years. And she says she's hooking her up with an immigration lawyer to speak with, and that special visa is for victims of border separation. So that's how it ended, which was pretty good. I enjoyed this episode. I hope you enjoyed it too. Y'all let me know what y'all think about in the comment section if I missed anything. Again, don't forget to subscribe to my channel, please. That is June BLC. Hit the little subscribe button right now. And I'll see you in the next video. Peace.